If you run an agency and you can't stop losing clients after a few months, you probably think the fix is better results, do better with service delivery, maybe tighten up the contracts or something like that. Something that forces them to stay. So I've been running my agency, My Online Guy, for over a decade now, and we have over 80 Facebook ads clients. And every single one of them is month to month. We don't have lock-ins, not a single one. And my average client retention is over 6 years. Now, the thing is, contrary to popular belief, you don't keep clients for 6 years plus by locking them down. The way you keep clients for a really long time is by making them feel like leaving is wrong. And that's what this whole video is about today. So a little bit about myself. My name is Jimmy. Everyone calls me Uncle Jimmy. And on top of running my agency for a very long time, I'm also a coach over at Easy Grow, which is Charlie Morgan's program. And I've coached over 5,000 people in that program. So I like to think I know what I'm talking about when it comes to running an agency sustainably. Now, I want to address the elephant in the room here and the common general consensus from the gurus out there in this space. And the way you solve low retention rates and high churn rates is by just getting lots of clients so that for every 3 clients you get, you might get 2 leave and 1 stays with you for a long time. But the thing I've discovered after speaking to so many agencies is that most agency owners don't have a getting client problem. They have a keeping client problem. And just piling a whole bunch of clients on top of a fundamentally broken system doesn't make it better. Because here's the thing, if your whole philosophy is acquisition, is to stay ahead of the client churn through acquisition, then every time you lose a client, it puts an immense amount of pressure back on the sales of your agency. And honestly, it works kind of okay until it doesn't. It's fine while you're gaining 3 clients and maybe losing 2, so the net positive is 1. But where the wheels start to fall up with that whole concept is when you lose 6 clients in a month and you go back 3 clients. Agencies that manage high churn rates through sales can last a few months, mainly because of cash buffer, before suddenly they have to start making desperate decisions when this kind of thing happens, where the churn gets too and the sales isn't enough to keep the tank topped up. Because most of these agencies are also scaling really quickly, and because of that, they tend to be running on pretty low cash reserves. And when those low cash reserves get tested, that is when agencies start making pretty desperate decisions. And that's where agencies start taking on bad fit clients, or they'll start dropping their prices, or just start saying yes to anything to put cash in the bank. And what happens is obviously the revenue goes up, you start to make a little bit of cash, but ironically, it just increases the cycle of churn in your business because you start trying to deliver on things that you don't know how to do. And that causes the business to become even more fragile. So if you're coming into this video with that kind of mindset that you've been told that the goal is to sell, get 3 clients, lose 2, and be happy with that, I would really highly suggest that you reflect on that thought process, because in my opinion, and what's worked really well for me, is fixing the leak before you turn on the tap. And I just want to give you some context, guys. My annual churn rate is around 10-ish%. It does vary a little bit, but around 10%. And because of that, I barely need to sell. And the referrals I get and the upsells that I do cover almost all of my growth. And it's just a way better model for running an agency. Because fundamentally, if your agency relies on infinite sales for growth, it's like being a type 2 diabetic or a diabetic that's got diabetes because they're overweight. Yes, you can treat the symptoms of being overweight. There's obviously medication that helps with diabetes. But actually, the best treatment for diabetes is to lose weight, is to get to the root cause of the issue and treat the root cause and not just the symptoms that you're facing. Now, the thing is, most agency owners that are trying to work on their retention and increase their retention of their clients and reduce their churn are just treating the symptom and not the root cause of why the churn is really high. Now, the key to understanding what the root cause of client retention actually is, as opposed to just treating the symptoms, is actually understanding why clients leave in the first place. What most agency owners don't understand is that the main reason clients actually leave is nothing to do with the service itself, but the sentiment they have towards you as an agency and the work you do for them. It's something I repeat again and again in all of my videos, in all of the coaching and consulting calls that I do with all the different agencies that I work with. Running an agency is about optics. Our job as agency owners is to control optics. It's not to deliver a good service. We do that to provide good optics for the client that we're working with so that they see the value in what we do, so that they pay us month in and month out. So if we know that the optics are more important than the actual results we deliver, and there'll be a few of you going, well, Jimmy, that can't be true because, we need to get the client's results. That should actually just be par for the course. Every agency should deliver results. And I would argue that there's a lot of agencies out there that don't, but why do they still get clients? Because optically, they do a very good job of controlling the narrative. And because of that, their clients don't leave. So if we know that, what do we actually have to focus on to treat the root cause of most agencies' client retention issues? What we have to do is focus on client sentiment over results. That's how you keep clients for extremely long periods of time. And I wish it was some crazy secret sauce, but fundamentally, there's a lot of agencies out there that just don't do a very good job of the optics side. Because the thing is, you can get a client okay results and keep a client for a decade. Subsequently, and you've probably experienced this, you can get really great results for a client and lose them in 3 months. The only differentiator between a client that stays for a decade and a client that stays for 3 months is the relationship that you have with them. Fundamentally, the reason clients stay with agencies is because of the people within the agency. Because on paper, we all do exactly the same thing. And if it was just about the service we deliver, then big agencies like mine would have all the clients and new agencies would have none. But that is not the primary driver of most people's decision making when it comes to who they decide to work with as an agency. It does make up a part of it, but it's not the whole picture. And what most agencies don't do a very good job of is actually building a relationship with their clients, because every interaction they have with their client is transactional in nature. Reporting numbers, sending invoices, answering complaints, everything is about transaction. You want this, so I'm doing that. I want this, so you're doing that. And you don't build relationships with just transactional conversations. And if all the conversations you have with your client are transactional, then it's very easy for the client to leave because there's no fundamental relationship there, so they won't ever feel guilty about leaving you. So if we know our job is to improve optics, and one of the best ways to improve optics is by improving your relationship with your client and transitioning from just another guy that provides a service to someone that they trust and they want to work with and have an actual relationship with, then one of the best ways to measure that is client sentiment as a metric. Now, obviously, client sentiment is quite subjective in nature, but fundamentally, we just need to shift away from thinking that our clients are leaving us because we're not providing good service, because you probably are, to am I doing enough outside of that holistically as an agency owner to make this person feel like they're in a relationship with us that transcends the work that we're doing? Are we doing enough to make them actually feel like that? Because fundamentally, the reason people leave agencies, if we talk about the root cause, is because there's nothing at stake when they leave. If you don't transition out of just being a transactional service provider for them, then when they leave, they'll have no emotion attached to doing that. Whereas if you built a genuine relationship with them and you've gone out of your way to actually build a relationship with your client and actually make it so they feel like that you're the best thing that's happened to them when it comes to marketing, then it will make the decision really difficult to leave. The same way it's very difficult to leave a personal relationship, like leaving a girlfriend or leaving a wife or something like that. It's not something you do on a whim. It's something that is in an extreme circumstance. And that's how we need to position ourselves when we're working with clients. So one of the single best ways to treat the root cause of most people's retention issues is to do more non-transactional communication. And it's honestly the secret to how I've kept clients for so bloody long in my agency. And there's actually a system for this. I call it the communication cadence. And it's honestly one of the most slept on concepts in the whole agency space. So as you guys know, I'm really big on processes and systems, and our communication is a process and a system, just like everything else in our agency. And it works on 3 layers. So the first layer of this communication cadence, which is specifically designed to help us build our relationship with our client outside of the service we deliver, is non-transactional communications that build relationships once a week. And generally I'll get my VA to do this, but what we actually do is we just ask how they're doing. Once a week, we'll check in with the client and go, hey client, it's Jimmy here. Just seeing how everything's going. How does it look on the ground? With the idea of trying to build a rapport with the clients that they have an open line of communication to tell us when things are wrong. What we also do is we go, before we start with any client, and we go and stalk them on social media and see the things that they like. So say, for instance, they like football. Let's say they like Manchester United. Then what we'll do is when Manchester United has a game, we'll ask them what they thought of the game. or we'll ask them what they thought of the last 10 minutes of the game. These all happen weekly. We generally will send 1 or 2 of these a week, and those conversations are specifically designed to help build rapport with our client, which helps build relationship. And the best way to think about a relationship building question or a non-transactional question is anything that gets a response that's not a yes or a no. So if I ask you, can you send me this document? The answer is generally yes or no, and that is a transactional conversation. An example of a non-transactional conversation in the same context is, what do you think of this document? You can see the slight difference in context makes a very different answer. One is going to be yes and no. The other one is going to induce a response from the person you're asking. They're going to be like, oh yeah, it wasn't too bad, but whatever. Those are how you build relationships, is by asking non-transactional questions that open up a conversation. And you, for every transactional question you ask, you should be asking 2 to 3 non-transactional conversational questions. And that goes for everything you do with a client. The next thing we do is we've moved away from just sending a client a report. So when we started and very early in the piece, we used to just send monthly reports that were written in Looker Studio like every other agency out there. But what I was finding is we were actually missing an opportunity to continue to build rapport with the clients. So once a fortnight for the first month and then monthly thereafter, I personally record a Loom video for every single client going over their results. Now that may be a hybrid where you're actually just going over their report and explaining the numbers and explaining all the things and how they make sense for their business. Or it could be what I do, which is just opening up Facebook Ads Manager and actually just going through those, just going through their account on Facebook Ads Manager. And the idea behind that is to not only help build rapport and show that you actually care and that you're on top of it and that you're in the weeds and give them the reassurance that everything's going to be okay. You're also giving some context to numbers so that the whole relationship you have with them isn't just based around solely numbers. It's based around a human being interacting with another human being and you providing education and support on top of the service you're providing. And the third and final part of our communication cadence is quarterly strategic meetings. Now, this isn't just a review of the results. The whole objective of these quarterly meetings is to learn more about their business and what they want to achieve in the next quarter. I'm really big on upselling. This is generally when I'll do my upselling. So I plant the seeds of ideas with clients to let them know what I'm thinking would work given what they want to achieve as goals. And that really, really works well because my strategy is to have more clients on lower retainers and then upsell them into higher value services as they work with me, because it's way easier to sell someone that's working with you already than it is to try and just find a bunch of new clients every single time. And obviously there is the tangible benefit of being able to upsell and getting a direct return on investment in these strategic meetings. But one of the biggest points of value in this stack of communication with the strategic meetings every quarter is that it gives you a specific point in time every 3 months to transition from being a service provider to a trusted advisor that has a genuine relationship with your clients. Because if you're sitting with them for an hour and a half talking about their business, not many people get the opportunity to do that. And you eventually become in cahoots with your client and you become a trusted advisor that they speak to about marketing every 3 months, and you start filling a gap in their business. And once you fill that gap, they'll never want to get rid of you because it's so hard to find someone to fill that gap. So like if I was to say, what is the root cause of why clients stay with me for so long? It's this. It's this communication cadence that I developed on top of just delivering the results that we say we're going to do. Not going above and beyond, not delivering crazy results, delivering what we say we're going to do, and then making sure that we have a very strict communication cadence with our clients that is not just transactional in nature, so that we build a genuine relationship with our clients so that if they want to leave us, it's a big deal because we're genuinely friends with them or they genuinely like working with us. The same way you don't just leave your girlfriend on a whim. It's a very thought out decision, and generally it's very painful to do. Now, I touched on this earlier. If you do this well and you retain clients for a very long time, you don't have to sell as much. And one of the best unintended consequences of having a high retention rate and implementing the strategies I just spoke about having communication cadence, is referrals. You know, a lot of agency owners think of referrals as a separate strategy that you have to work with, but fundamentally it's not. It's a byproduct of this retention done properly. Now, like everything else in our agency, we formalize this, and every 2 months we ask for referrals like clockwork of every single client. And we have different strategies that we implement, and I'll talk about that in a future video specifically. But what you have to remember is that getting referrals and getting the volume of referrals which we get, which is in the last 8 months, we got 51 referrals, which 21 of those people became clients. Clients have to stay with you for long enough to be able to refer people to you. If your whole philosophy is running an agency that you lose clients after 2 months, but that's okay because you sell 3 new clients, then you'll never keep clients long enough to start the anti-sales flywheel, which is getting enough referrals and upselling enough so that you don't have to sell anymore. Because trust me, there will be a point in time where you lose 10 clients in a month and you only pick up 3 new ones. And generally, the people that sell aggressively have really big ad budgets for their agencies, and a lot of their margin goes into getting new clients. If you don't have that expense as an agency and you just focus on retaining clients for longer so that you can get more referrals and more upsells from them, then you can make your agency way more robust because your margins will be better because you're not having to spend so much on acquiring customers. So if there is one thing to take away from this video, I want you to look at all the communication you do at the moment and look and go, how much of it right now is transactional versus non-transactional? Look at your reporting. Look at how the last 10 bits of communication you've had with every single client and see how many is transactional, yes, no answers, you asking for things, they're asking for things back, and how many is non-transactional. And like I said, as a ratio, for every 1 piece of transactional communication you have with a client, aim to have at least 2 pieces of non-transactional conversations or communications happening alongside those. If you do that, you will start treating the root cause of the problem of retention for most agencies, which is not service delivery, which is not some secret sauce. It's that most agencies don't understand that a high churn rate and a low retention rate of clients is just a symptom of a lack of communication and a lack of good optics and a lack of understanding of why clients stay with agencies. And trust me, if you start working on that and you start working towards having relationships with clients, your retention rate will skyrocket. Now, obviously, that is just one element of keeping clients forever. The next element, and arguably the single most important one, is what you say when you first start working with them and how you set expectations from the very first conversation and how you frame your relationship with them. This is the single biggest factor of whether you have happy clients or not happy clients. And that's obviously a separate problem that I'm going to cover in the next video. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. I'm Jimmy, and I'll catch you in the next video.